Hey guys, how's it going? It's Andy from MagooInvesting. Happy Friday. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down Plug Power, ticker symbol PLUG. This has been a very heavily requested video. If people have been around for a little bit, I made a video talking about Plug back in December, and since then, it's been one of my more viewed videos, and it seems like every day I get a new comment that asks, oh, it's now to this price. Can you talk about it? What do you think about it at this price? And so in this video, I've decided that I was going to wait until the earnings report, and that happened yesterday after hours. And so all the numbers are out today, and I thought I'd kind of give an update on my feelings about Plug Power. And I also wanted to talk about speculative stocks because I think it's a really good topic to discuss because I feel like it doesn't get talked enough about. Before we get started, I got to say that I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and I highly recommend talking to a professional, someone that can find you the best places to put your money going forward. In addition, I really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, as it would help my channel out a lot. Back in December when I made that video, I was not feeling too good about Plug. If you looked at the all-time charts, things did not look fantastic. It had started off really strong in the early 2000s, and then it's just been really low for a long time. And just based off of that, I was very into technical analysis at that point and not so much into fundamentals. But I just started getting into fundamentals. But if you look at the fundamentals of Plug, it's kind of a nightmare. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my feelings about it now, because I kind of have a better understanding of how the company runs and kind of the benefits of investing in speculative stocks. So I kind of wanted to break down what Plug Power actually does. It's not a company like Amazon or Apple, stuff that people just have a general understanding of how the company works and what they do. Plug Power is a hydrogen fuel cell company based out of the United States. They went public in the early 2000s, around 2001, and since then they've been making hydrogen fuel cells and stuff like that for almost 2 decades now. For people that don't remember their high school chemistry, or maybe it's been a while, hydrogen is the most abundant element on the planet. It is in pretty much everything. You have stuff like water, H2O, there's 2 hydrogens in there. Many of the fossil fuels that people kind of think about. Methane has 4 hydrogens, propane has 8, and so it's very abundant. And people have started to figure out how to use the power of this actually very energetically available atom to their benefit. So at this point, there is no limit on the abundance of hydrogen. So that's not the problem. The problem is the technology is not fully here yet. Plug Power has been around for a while, and they're trying to make hydrogen fuel cells more common in everyday life. They have applications for stuff like powering buildings, cars, businesses, and stuff like that, but it hasn't really taken a hold super well in the world so far. When you think about these green cars out there, stuff you probably think about are electric cars, which are EVs, electric vehicles. And this is stuff like Tesla, the Volt, stuff like that, because battery power has been around for a long time, and it's pretty well used at this point. Hydrogen fuel cells have not been tested enough, and they're not refined enough to be a realistic solution to power the world at this point. Elon Musk has been very outspoken about his stance on fuel cells, and he called them mind-bogglingly stupid. That's a tough word to say. So Elon Musk, it makes sense why he's kind of against them. His company is based off of electric vehicles with batteries, and hydrogen fuel cells are kind of a different type of technology. As I mentioned, hydrogen fuel cells haven't really taken over in the consumer market yet, but there are some examples of Plug Power starting to dip their toes into a little bit. In 2017, Plug Power signed a deal with USPS, US Postal Service, that would have hydrogen fuel cells be going into their entire fleet of cars and vans, which is a very big step. People that think that hydrogen fuel cells are a great alternative, I think this is a great place to invest. But I'm going to lay out some other factors why I think, even if you think that hydrogen fuel cells are the way of the future, why it may be beneficial to wait a little bit before taking a position. I wanted to talk about speculative stocks because I feel like they don't get discussed enough. You often hear stuff about these very well-established blue chip companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, stuff like that. These are companies that have poor fundamentals, they don't have a huge share of the market cap, and they're just kind of haven't reached their full potential yet. One of the most successful speculative stocks that I could think of in recent memory is Tesla. If you remember, people were very critical about the fundamentals and just the business model of Tesla when it first came out up until about 6 months ago. People thought that it was a disaster waiting to happen. It was the most shorted stock on the New York Stock Exchange for a while, and since then the stock has pushed up to ridiculous highs, which is a great example of the reasons why people love investing in speculative stocks. They're companies that are very high potential, but it hasn't been realized yet, and Tesla was a great example of that. With speculative stocks, if things start going south or they start going really well, the price can move a lot very quickly. And that's because it's all speculation. None of the price movement is because of fundamentals, their business plan, stuff like that. It's just people getting on board with kind of the idea of the company. You have stocks like Virgin Galactic, stuff that's not profitable yet, but people really like the idea of it. And so they are speculating that the potential of commercial space flight is possible, and that's why people are on board with that. People got on board with Tesla because they thought that having a sexy, powerful electric vehicle was possible, and they've been rewarded for that. Plug power, people think that hydrogen fuel cells are the way of the future, and that's why people are jumping on board with that. So with speculative stocks, you have incredible upside, but there is a lot of risk involved with speculative stocks. Plug Power is an example of a company that's been a speculative stock for a long time, but has not had the greatest track record. When I put up the all-time chart, yeah, oof, not exactly the sexiest chart in the world. But if I go and I shrink the time frame a little bit to the 5-year and then even the 1 year, you can see that the company is starting to head in the right direction, at least based off of the charts. However, with speculative stocks, you have a lot of volatility. When the market increases in volatility, speculative stocks are not a place you want to be a part of. You can just look at the first couple of days of the Corona scare. Just because when that happened and the market started falling, you had Virgin Galactic, you had Tesla, and you had Plug Power all having double-digit losses. Because when the market goes south and volatility increases, people pull their money out of riskier investments, which are stuff like these speculative stocks. So if you think that the market is going to continue to fall and the volatility is going to continue to increase, speculative stocks are not a great place to be. However, if you think this is kind of an overreaction to the overall market, speculative stocks can be a great opportunity for you. When people look at Plug Power, you see a lot of people that are thinking very long-term with a company. There was someone in my comment section saying that they're going to hold 5 to 10 years because they think it's going to be a very important part about powering the world in the future, and I respect them for that. I wouldn't get into a company like Plug expecting to have solid, steady results for the next couple years. I think it's going to be a lot of chop before you get this incredible return. Let's start talking about the fundamentals. Fundamentals have been something that have kind of taken over my way of investing. When I first got into the stock market, I was all about technicals. I want to be a technical trader, don't want to talk anything about speculation, just based off the charts and trade off of that. Fundamentals with Plug Power, it's pretty tough to look at. Let's start with the most recent earnings. Last quarter, Plug Power lost 8 cents compared to the expected 6 cents, which is a miss, but it's not that bad. One of the most impressive things that I saw was that their year-over-year revenue went up 53%. 53%. That is incredible. However, when you get a great news event or just a great number, you get some bad stuff a lot of the time. And the fact that their net losses have widened 8% worse than it was at this point last year, and they're up to $18 million losses per quarter. So things are starting to go south a little bit more. However, that increase in revenue is something that I can't get out of my mind. 53% is ridiculous. And it's kind of the only good thing that I see in the company besides the speculative aspect of the company. A lot of the earnings look very rough. Something I noticed is that the company has never had a positive earnings per share in 20 years, which is kind of scary to say the least. As I mentioned earlier with speculative stocks, fundamentals don't really tell you a lot because when you have very poor financials, you get some very weird looking data for some of the fundamentals that I like looking at. First one I want to talk about is the P to E ratio, which is the price over earnings ratio. And as I mentioned, they've never had a positive earnings per share, so their PE ratio is 0. Long-term debt, which is something that I like looking at because it kind of shows the trend that the company's going in with their finances. And their long-term debt has continued to increase over the past couple quarters, and it's kind of getting alarmingly large. When I put up the debt to equity ratio, it looks kind of funky. It looks like a flat line for a long time, and then it went negative. So I had to do some research on this because I have not really seen a debt to equity ratio that's negative. Basically, that means that the debt is large and the equity went negative. What does negative equity mean? It basically means that if the company had to dissolve tomorrow and they liquidated all of their assets and paid back all their debts, they would be negative. Basically, this means that the company's liabilities exceeds its assets, which is not something I really want to be a part of. Finally, I wanted to bring up the crazy speculative swings that you see with this company. When I put up the annual returns for the company since 2008, you can see that every year has had more than 30% swing up or down. We've had a very solid 2020 so far, being up 50%. However, you can see some of the crazy years that it's had in the past. And for someone that maybe thinks that the stock market is going to continue to fall, I mentioned that speculative stocks are probably not the best place. However, if you think that this market reaction to the coronavirus and the slowing of the world economy is an overreaction, this is a great time to take advantage of stocks that are at a discount. If you're looking for a safe place to kind of ride out this increased volatility, Plug Power is not the place you want to be. Okay, now let's talk about my final thoughts on Plug Power. I really like speculative stocks. I think they're fantastic to just kind of brainstorm about the possibility of these companies. I was one of those people that was very bullish on Tesla. I made a mistake about selling at around 275 and I missed out on a lot of profits, but I identified a company that I thought that had a lot of potential that hadn't been realized yet. And for people that feel that would plug power, I'd say go for it. When looking at the overall market, I cannot justify it to myself to take a position in an even riskier stock when I look at my portfolio already. So I'll be staying away from speculative stocks until this volatility decreases. I do agree that for people that believe in this company and believe in the future of hydrogen fuel cells, you can be rewarded greatly. However, people have to understand the risks that are involved with a speculative stock like this. It can go up a lot, it can go down a lot. So I think understanding the risks that you're taking while taking a position in the stock is very important. This isn't a company I'd own right now, but the more I look at it and the more I do some research on hydrogen fuel cells, I can see the appeal to taking a position in this company. I just don't think now is the time for me. I'll probably look back in a year or so, maybe wait until this market volatility decreases, and then take a really small position, smaller than the ones that I already have. Just because the incredible upside, it'll pay out. And if I lose all my money on a small position, I can deal with that because I saw the potential and it wasn't realized. So I thought this was an interesting topic. People that don't really care about plug power, I think talking about speculative stocks is a good topic because we talk a lot about these very solid blue chip companies, and talking about these speculative stocks that have a lot of potential are kind of a fun thing to do. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think of speculative stocks. If you have any examples of companies you'd like me to go over in a future episode, please leave it in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next episode.